All right, I'm recording.
Hey, good afternoon, Professor Paris. For those that don't know, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, sure. And thanks for this doing this. This is an interesting project you're doing. My name is Michael Paris. I'm associate professor at the College of Staten Island. I do the pre-law advising, and I have a brief prior life as a lawyer. Right out of college, I went to law school, and I practiced law for about 4 years. And then I went back for a PhD, and I've been teaching full time at various institutions since 1995. But I've been at CSI since 2007.
Thank you. So I just wanted to ask you a couple questions regarding protest and its evolution and some of your experience regarding and your opinions on it. That's okay.
Yeah, that's great. Great, shoot, we'll talk.
All right. So the first question I have for you is, what are some things that's moved slash inspired you to protest?
Yeah, well, I think a couple things go into it. I have considered myself an activist in various ways since college, really. So I started college in 1979. Now, my father was a Republican, my mother was a Democrat. I'm one of seven kids, so I had five older siblings who went through the 60s. So I think that was an influence. I considered myself basically liberal. But I started to become politically active at the end of college, and the main access point there were courses. It's hard for people to understand these days, but Marxism was had a lot of currency in academic circles back then. So I took a number of courses that were sort of teaching kids about Marxian theory and Marxist political and policy analysis. So I actually considered myself a Marxist. Um, and I started to become active. The student activism at that time was much like the activism over uh, Gaza today. Was the apartheid regime in South Africa was a big issue, and trying to leverage what we could to change, to put pressure on that regime to reform. So I became involved in that movement in college, my last year at college in particular, and I continued to do that when I went to law school at Columbia University I started there in the fall of 1983. And then since then, I've always been active in something.
What was one protest you feel had the greatest result so far in your life?
Well, it, um, I think I've mentioned to you in the past, there's this great book on college kids who went to Mississippi in 1964. The sociologist is named Doug McAdam, and the book is called Freedom Summer. I had an experience kind of like the one he chronicles there, and what he's saying is when you're in the grip of contention, when a lot is on the line, when there's a lot of pressure, you find that people kind of step up, they rise above themselves, they're able to meet the moment with others, and it's formative. It's a foundational thing. It's like it stays with you your whole life when you have that kind of conflict. Now, I risked my law degree. I'd kill myself to get there, working class kid, and I decided, you know, I was going to be involved in this. I was going to engage in civil disobedience around it to get the university to change its investment portfolio. And the university kept acting in an unscrupulous way, and it escalated. So we blockaded a building for 3 weeks on the Columbia University campus in the spring rather of 1985. We started that demonstration on April 4th, 1985, which is anniversary of Martin Luther King's assassination. And we sat in front of a building for 3 weeks. And, they wanted to expel 70, 80 students. I was one of only two law students who were charged and threatened with expulsion, and they meant it. They didn't get to do it. We beat them, and we got a little slap on the wrist for our demonstration, but the university divested. They couldn't stand the pressure we brought to bear. So, and that was important. The regime didn't fall for several more years, but we got noticed. Bishop Tutu noticed us. Leaders of the African National Congress noticed us, and the student movement we sparked. We were the first one to do that, and other campuses went out and did similar things, Cornell, Berkeley. throughout the country. So that was, I would say that was the most important one for me. And since then, is protest is just one thing in a larger picture of some kind, like you're trying to accomplish something. And protest can be vital. Spontaneous mass defiance can be really important, but usually you're engaged in a range of things, and protest is one tool in a strategy to get something done, whether it's getting a candidate elected or getting a policy changed or resisting an unjust war, these sorts of things.
You, what do you think about the youth and their protests and slash or lack thereof?
Yeah, a lot of people, I'm 65 years old, and a lot of us are, I mean, I hear it a lot, like where are the kids? Like where are the kids, right? Like um our background is that young people were vital in the 60s and 70s because they didn't have as many obligations, they didn't have family obligations, they could risk more. They didn't have other people depending on them, they could take more risks, and they were typically bolder, less patient, less conciliatory. So that's the mindset. I don't quite agree with that. I think in higher education, I mean, when people say, what about the youth? You're usually talking about kids who are in college, right? Where are they? What are they doing? How are they intervening in trying to make a difference in the society, in the public discussions and debates? And there has been a real, you know, uprising of sorts around Israel's maniacal slaughter of innocent people in Gaza. Whether we call it genocide or not, the facts are the facts. They've killed 60 to 70,000 innocent people, which is a wildly inappropriate and disproportionate response to the horrible atrocity that Hamas committed against Israelis on October 7th, 2023. I'm hoping that activism doesn't stay where it is, that it expands to 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 deal with voting rights, to deal with immigration. And these things are happening, I think, but I'm less judgmental about younger people because it's a different time. And um, most people didn't go to college in the 60s. Now, 60, 70% of high school graduates at least start college. And they come from a different place. They come from more disadvantaged, poorer backgrounds. They have more obligations. It's not fair to judge people outside of the social context. I wish there was more activism across a broader range of fronts, but the activism we've seen over the Middle East and like, well, where's the opposition to this war in Iran? We don't really see it on campuses. Where's the opposition to taking away voting rights? Where's the opposition to Gestapo forces running around our cities, grabbing people, kidnapping people indiscriminately sometimes? I think it's growing, but I'm less judgmental than a lot of people in my generation. Uh, People bemoan lack of engagement and activism in general, but I don't begrudge anyone. You have to live your life, and if your life involves a job that you work 30 hours a week and you're trying to get a college education, um, that's more than enough, right? As long as I do wish people were more informed and aware about what was going on. That what's going on, that's basic. You can be aware without actually taking action. But people take action when they think they can win and they feel there's a grave injustice, and it needs to be in an organizational setting where folks support each other. I believe that it should be actually enjoyable, you know, and it can be made to be enjoyable. It can be made to be a positive social experience, you know. Um, so I'm less pessimistic than some people. I wish there were more of it, but these are the times we live in. I don't think we should hold the 22-year-old to a higher standard than the 40-year-old, you know. And the 40-year-olds aren't actually rushing out into the streets either, but um, a lot of 65-year-olds are, but we, nobody wants to pay attention to us these days. So